All right, we're back. Week 2 of Hard Hits. We are going to be taking a look at Week 1, all the matchups in Week 1. We're going to take a look at next week in review, and we're going to be looking at the power rankings and where we're sitting at right now. With that said, let's just dive right on in. So the first matchup we're going to take a look at is Fourth Down and Bitches, who faced off against Cooking Lil Sutton. Cooking Lil Sutton, cooking nothing. I mean, fourth down, cooked the shit out of her. He won by 50.7 points. With that said, he had 6 players in double digit, and 4 of those 6 were 20 plus points. We're looking at Phillip Rivers, T.Y. Hilton had 2 touchdown grabs. Austin Eckler just fucking ran to town with 37 points. And then we're also looking at Le'Veon Bell, who his 20.2 points was 20.2 more points than Mike had with Le'Veon Bell all of last season. So phenomenal performance by Fourth Down and Bitches. With that said, I mean, she only had 3 players in double digits. One of them was Dalvin Cook. Sutton, great job. You're performing for your team name. And then Allen Robinson had a solid performance on Thursday Night Football. She had some disappointing performances from Brandon Cooks. Aaron Rodgers with his 9 points, and Rashad Penny, who later got dropped by Raquel. So, I mean, it feels like Raquel's in panic mode. We look at 4 of her draft picks have been dropped. TJ Hawkinson was a horrible drop, 15th round draft pick, and look what he did in week 1 with, I believe, 23 points. Kiki Cutie, a 14th round pick. He didn't play last week, but he got dropped as well. Jordan Howard, an 8th round pick. She already just gave up on him after following week 1 performance. Just dropped the shit out of him. So it was a little bit disappointing. We'll take a look at El Jefe, who faced off against Team Boo Boo. As a matchup of the bottom tier teams, I'm still sticking to that. Team Boo Boo did grab the win, but I think the biggest thing out of all of this is Jeff, who couldn't even reach 100 points. And we're not even hitting bye weeks yet. So that's very concerning. And it seemed like his whole team was on bye week. He only had 4 players in double digits. Chubb, his number 1 pick, only had 10 points. Gallup was a great performer with 19 points. I mean, I talk shit about Gallup. It seemed like the trend this week was everybody was performing that I just didn't give a fuck about and I talk shit about. OBJ didn't have a good performance with 10 points. Deshaun Watson saved face for Jeff with 30 points on Monday Night Football. Can you imagine if Deshaun Watson didn't have 30 points for Jeff? It would be a poop fest. This team would be already ranked 15th out of 14. How bad this team would have been. Juan, on the other hand, he had a phenomenal performance. Tom Brady led the way with 30 points. I talked shit about Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson. He had 2 wide receivers from Philadelphia, and they both showed out with 19 points from Jeffrey and 31 points from Deshaun Jackson. He also had contributions from Gordon, Gurley, and Jimmy Graham, and he won by 34 points. So it was a great performance by Juan. It's something he definitely can bring forward into the next week. I just wasn't expecting this, but I wasn't expecting Jeff to just really shit the bed like he did this week. It didn't help that he had Ebron, didn't do shit. Pollard, I don't know why he started Pollard. Zeke's in there, for Christ's sake. And then Cleveland giving him negative points, -2 points after their shit fest that they had against the Titans. It's just really bad performance, considering he was going up against Denver, who gave Juan 0 points, and Vinatieri, who just acted like he never kicked a game of his life, with 1 point. So it was very disappointing. The next matchup we'll take a look at is Trash Season, who is going up against the reigning champion Power Game. It was a closer matchup than I thought it would be. It all goes back to I stated that Chris was favored by 10 points going into this matchup. I thought Luke was going to win this matchup. Chris ended up winning by 11 points. That's just where the projection was landing at as well. Chris surprised the heck out of me. Keenan Allen led the way with 22 points. He had 5 people in double digits. Keenan Allen didn't lead the way. Christian McCaffrey did with 37. So it was an astounding performance. Woods, Hooper, Brown. But I think the more important part is what he was sitting on the bench. is Kyler Murray had 20 points, which I think Kyler Murray had a horrible game. Don't get me wrong. Kyler Murray was straight garbage. But then Hollywood, Marquise Brown, once again, I was talking shit about these picks, and look at what he was doing. Marquise Brown with 28 points, Hawkinson with 22 points, which Raquel dropped, Chris swooped on up. It sat on his bench, but now it's like trade bait. Now it's like great starters for him to fill in and build his team. Am I sold on Marquise Brown? Absolutely not. I'm still not a Lamar Jackson fan. But for what he did in week 1, it's got to raise a little bit of eyebrows. As far as Luke, is there any building? How should he feel about this matchup? Is there any building pieces for him moving forward? Absolutely. He had 6 players in double digits. The leader was Kamara. That's great. His number 1 pick with 20 points. Landry had about 10. Sanders had 17. Boyd had 10. Wilson had 16. Now, great, they're in double digits, but I believe they can do more. I think he should be surprised that Russell Wilson had 16 points, but with Boyd as your leading receiver with 10, John Ross took all those points away. Sanders with 17. I don't think you're going to get 17 every week. Don't calm down over there. But with Landry with 10, I think some of them overachieved. But nonetheless, it sucks to start the year 0-1, but it's not a bad matchup. It's not a bad way to start the year. You had 125 points on the board. You should be all right. Not to mention DK with 10 points on his bench. Randall Cobb with 14 points on his bench. He's diving into the waiver wire. He's picking up great people. And I told you, DK is going to be a solid pickup. The next one we're going to take a look at is Ricky versus D-Bach. M.I. Thielens versus Speeding Bullets. I thought this was a clear-cut matchup that D-Bach was going to run away with this. I was wrong. But, combined, he had 2 players. Ricky had 2 players who combined for 88.70 points. It's never going to happen again. Mark my words. That Dak Prescott's not going to get a 40-burger ever again. Who had 46 points in week 1. And Sammy fucking Watkins with 42.3 points. There's 2 people who should be ashamed about this. Me, Connor Joe, and 2 D-Bach. This should have never happened. Never, ever happened. Ricky, I'm looking at you. Your team sucks. It still sucks. All right? Next week, you're starting a fucking backup running back. A fucking backup running back. But nonetheless, Ricky won. He's 1-0. He won by 47 points. The second to highest point differential for the week. 2 of his 3 players who finished in double digits scored 40-plus points and were offensive players, meaning nobody else did a goddamn thing on his team. Mosley had 14 points on his team and had a touchdown as well, defensively. He started Dante Pettis, who had just as many snaps as double-digit offensive players on his team. 2. Connor had 8 points, and it's funny because he had just as many people with double digits on his bench than he did on his team. Crowder with 17, which he's not going to do ever again also. Stafford with 31, and Buffalo with 12. With that said, D-Bach didn't have the best game of his life, didn't have the worst game. He had 112 points. It's not a great performance considering what we think D-Bach should be able to do. Breeze led the way with 23 points. That's better than I thought Breeze would do. Godwin had 12. It wasn't a great performance. Thielen had 11. Wasn't the best performance. Kittle at 10. And he had 2 touchdowns taken away from him if you watched the game. Tucker with 11. And the only thing he really left to be desired was D.D. Westbrook with 12. It was a matchup that D-Bach most certainly should have just left behind. It's over with. Let's move forward to next week. Ricky is going to ride the wave. Already claimed he's going to get a W next week. Go get him, Tiger. It's over with. for me, for D-Bach, good job. With that said, we're going to take a look at Mike, limo riding, jet flying, son of a gun, who's facing off against Reina. No fat chicks. A very high flying scoring affair. I definitely didn't see this happening. I didn't expect both teams to be almost scoring about 160 points. I give kudos to Mike. You know how I feel about Mike. I hope he loses every week, and I hope he loses twice against the commission. But he put up a fight I didn't see coming. 4.68 points was the difference between those two. Reina scoring 163.9 points, the most for this week. For Mike, Mahomes led the way with 33 points, a great solid performance. Fitz with 21 points, Julio with 13, Walker had a great game. I guarantee you it's not happening again with 20 points. White with 10 points, Gold had 11, the Jets had 19. Granted, he had a lot of games which I don't think is going to bear repeating, but to see what he was doing, the biggest guy who I think held him back was Marquise Goodwin with the 1 point. And I think I told you guys how I feel about Marquise Goodwin. He's not going to be the guy that's going to get the points for you. But he put up a fight. On his bench, he didn't leave anything to be desired either. Mike left everything on the table, and this week 1 affair, I give him mad respect for what he did. Is he going to do it again? I don't know. Can this team continue it? I don't know. But I think the other thing we need to look at is Reina, who's the youngest, one of the youngest people. He is the youngest one in the league as far as years in. And what he's doing, like he made the playoffs already. He's putting up a fight. And he's had 7 people put up double digits this week. One of them was Carson Wentz with his 30 points. Mark Ingram with his 22 points. His fucking kicker had 15 points. Duke Johnson had 11 points. Edelman had 13. Cooper had 19. Like, he put up an affair. And the thing is, he did all this, and Zach Ertz hasn't even put up anything worthwhile as well with his 7.9 points. So there's definitely more to be desired. Can Reina sustain this? Absolutely. And the fact is, Reina does this without trading draft picks, without acquiring draft picks. He made 1 move, and that's it. Like, this man just does it. Like, I'm gonna do it the real way, the American way, America. And when we look at what he left on the bench, he left a couple of double-digit performances on the bench. I still don't like the fact that Mariota's his backup, but look at what Mariota did in Week 1 against the Browns. So there may be something to it. I think Reina is gonna be one of the top dogs this year. He was one of the top dogs last year. So this man can do it. And it was a great matchup. I give them both kudos for what they did. It just sucks that someone's got to lose at the end of this. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to finish up. I believe we have 1 or 2 matchups to talk about still. After we talk about the matchups, we're going to go straight into the power ranking. We're going to go straight into looking into next week's matchups, and then the power rankings, and then we'll get you out of here. Thank you for tuning into Hard Hits.